Good morning. I cannot say thank you enough for having me here today and for sitting in 2 weeks ago and listening to these wonderful people singing in part of this important morning for me and my family. There's danger here this morning. I can talk forever.
20 minutes.
Humor's good. So, as Allison said earlier, life changed immensely February 6, 1998. The week of that week, I left home on the Sunday for Toronto. I had a workers' compensation course to go to in Toronto. I always had angst when I left home, and I left on the Sunday. It was Super Bowl Sunday. And I was in Toronto the Monday, Tuesday, and the Wednesday. And on the Wednesday, we came home, the gentleman and I that went. I got to my house. I pet my dogs and greeted them, threw my suitcases in the house. I jumped in my car, and I went and picked up my boys at school. On the way home, I drove them by this street to show them a vehicle I was about to buy. Yeah, that got delayed for quite a while. And we drove home and had supper together, and as always, Brenda would spend time with the boys, reading them a story, getting their pajamas on, brushing their teeth, all that good mom-children stuff. And I went down the hall, and I tucked both boys in and turned off their lights and got a hug and said, "I love you," and they both reciprocated. And I was walking back down the hall, and I turned off the light, and Myles said, "Dad, I love you." It was the last words he ever said to me. I begged him for 6 days here to talk to me again. In my head, I could hear his voice, but I never heard any more words. We underwent a 14-month police investigation. They called us into the police station. There was the chief, the deputy chief, there was the Crown attorney. My wife and I went in, and we were very stoic. We had no emotion, and they told us there would be no charges in the death of our son. There would be a coroner's inquest. We waited another 26 months to the day, 25, for the coroner's inquest to start. We were called to the OPP station in Chatham, and there was lawyers for the school board and the police department and the hospitals and the doctors and 2 boys and their families. And there were so many lawyers. Our lawyer couldn't make it. There was a freezing rainstorm. And he couldn't make it from Windsor to London. And there was briefs like this. So if you were at the school that day, you were interviewed. And some of those interviews amounted to nothing. I was there, but I don't know what happened. Some of them had more detail. And of course, there was all the teachers, everybody, the pizza delivery boy at noon hour, everybody. Of all things, because our lawyer couldn't make it, they piled this high. They gave them to my wife and I to take home. So we're like 2 years removed. It was 2000 from when Myles had been found on the hook. And we went home with those briefs. I'm not joking here. We read them all weekend. And by Monday morning, we had read every word in those briefs. And for the first time in 2 years, without reading a newspaper, without listening to all the things that were coming at us, we had a pretty good idea of what might have transpired on that day. We know this. We know that the picture that you continuously see of Myles was taken as the noon hour bell rang for lunch. The grade 5 class at St. Agnes was doing 5-minute speeches that day on whatever they wanted to talk about. Our crazy boy, Myles, did a speech on our trip to Disney the year before in February. And the teacher gave us the video. It's so funny to watch once in a while just to hear his voice. But he panned the class with his camera, the video camera, as the bell rang, and he captured that photo of Myles with that funny smile and wearing the shirt. And 30 minutes later, for all intents and purposes, he was dead inside that school. So what happened? We know that Brenda had Fridays off then, and we know that she ran errands in the morning. I was at work at the factory. We know that Brenda got home and was putting groceries away, and the phone rang, and it was the teacher. She had no angst or no sign of the turmoil that might have been going on in her own mind and inside the school at the time. She simply said, as a teacher would call you at home about your children, "Hi, Brenda, one of the boys is choking. Can you or Mike come to the school?" And that was it. She did not identify which son. She did not identify who she was. Her own anxiety and stress was setting in. Brenda didn't read into it. She didn't call me immediately, all stressed out. When she did call me, I was in Chatham, so we had received permission from the school board for the boys to go to school where they were at, because Brenda worked right across the street, and I worked in the city. So as soon as my wife called me, and she said hi, and she reminded me I had a couple of things to do before I come home. That's what you wives are really good at, reminding us men what we should be doing. You all agree, right? So then she said the school called and one of the boys was choking. I immediately filled with panic, fear, and I don't know what other words I can use to describe what was coming over me. They told me later I dropped the phone. I ran out of the upstairs office. I ran down the stairs. I ran through the factory. I blew past the security guards. I jumped in that car, and I raced to that school. And I jumped in the ambulance, and we went to the hospital, and they opened the doors, and I knew my son was gone. Then we go through all that other investigation, and then we come to the inquest. On the following week, after we had read them briefs all weekend, I took him to my lawyer in Windsor. And then he calls up, like 10 days before the inquest started, March 6th of 2000, and he said, "I don't think you can afford me. This is not a criminal court of law. This is not a civil court of law where there's lawsuits. It's a coroner's inquest. It's a public hearing. We determine who died, how they died, make recommendations that it doesn't happen again." I don't know what he knew about me, and he looked at us and he said, "I can reduce my fee to $10,000 a week. However many weeks it lasts, that's what it'll cost you." The inquest lasted 6.5 weeks. "I think you can do it." He's sitting in my house. I looked at him and went, "Pardon?" When he left, we broke down in each other's arms and cried a little bit and said, "What the devil are we going to do?" And we started going through the briefs again and picking out questions. Who should we question, and who should we talk to, and what questions should we ask? And then we invited 3-4 real good friends into the house, and they made me look like a superstar at that inquest, and I danced with those lawyers for them other police organizations and hospitals and doctors and 2 boys and their family. And I begged the boy who I considered the leader to tell us that it was bullying, to tell us that he was jealous of my son, to tell us that he didn't mean to hurt Myles, he just meant to bully him. It was an accident. But he wouldn't buy into that theory. Other lawyers wanted to say that Myles ran into the washroom, played on the washroom walls all by himself, got caught in the hook, and choked to death. The only thing I ever seen him climb was the cherry tree at home when the cherries were ripe in his little play fort. We know that Myles was that lunchtime monitor for grade 1. We know that another bell rang. We know that Myles went to the library for a school newspaper meeting. We know that meeting didn't last long. We know that Myles left the library. 2 girls asked him if he wanted to go outside and play tag. He said, yes, I just have to go to the washroom first. And he went to that washroom and he never came out. We know because the oldest boy suggested he went to the washroom and found Myles Neuts on the hook and went and got help. But when we brought the second boy up, he said when Myles walked by, he followed him. Apparently on Monday of the week that he was found on the hook, Myles, we had told our sons we were going out west across the country for summer vacation, just gotten our first computer ever at Christmas of '97, and my 10-year-old was already on the computer teaching me how to use it, and he was contacting family and friends across the country. I'm coming to see you. Some of them he had never met. Well, we know that he was starting to save his own money for this vacation. And apparently the younger of the two boys, him and Myles, were doing a coloring contest for Remembrance Day for the poem Flanders Fields. We know that there was a $10 bet. We know that Myles won. We know that Myles walked up to the 11-year-old on the Monday and said, hey, do you have my $10? Because he had a list at home like a banker how much money he was saving for his vacation. And we know that the boy said, no, I don't have it, and Myles went away. And we know that the 12-year-old said, what was that all about? The 11-year-old said, $10 bet 2 years ago, Myles won, he freaks me out, he's never forgot. And the 12-year-old said, we'll make him forget. We'll make him forget on Friday. What else did the 12-year-old know? He knew that the principal was not at school on the Friday. He knew that it was pizza day for the teachers on the Friday. He knew that the lunchtime monitors for kindergarten to grade 3, I think, was the same schedule for him and the 11-year-old and Myles. He told the coroner's inquest that his teacher asked him to stay inside the school at noon hour on Friday, February 6th to mark math papers. Put the teacher on the stand. She said, I did not. We know from the 11-year-old that when Myles walked by, the 12-year-old followed him. We know that the 12-year-old came back not once but twice and got that 11-year-old, brought him in the washroom to look at the dummy hanging on the hook. And we know not until he went into the photocopy room across the hall and he said, come and look at this, to another boy, and it was that boy who ran and got help. It was too late for our son. We got through the coroner's inquest. People wanted to make that accident thing work, and I was totally against it, so I went hard at homicide. Did I believe it was homicide? No. But I could not let the accident be the injustice that I thought it was. We ended up with a verdict of undetermined and numerous coroner inquest recommendations. Children shall not monitor children on lunch hours by themselves. Can you imagine my 10-year-old monitoring a grade 1 class and a child is choking on their food and he runs to get help and runs back and hopefully we're in time. Children are answering the phones inside of schools. There's a recommendation they don't do that. What if an emergency call comes in during the lunch hour? We know that there was a nasty fight that year, 97, 98, between the province of Ontario politicians and the school boards. And the school boards stood back and let the teachers have the fight because the school boards knew the teachers were fighting their fight. There's so much that came together on Friday, February 6th that created that perfect storm. With the recommendations, I started going out and advocating. I sat and became a school trustee for 1 3-year term so I could understand the process of how everything worked, especially the envelopes of money. And then I got asked to do a school up here in Kamoka. They sent me a thing like this of all their safety protocols in the school. I called the principal back and I said, why do you want me to come? Everything that I got for school safety of children, you're already doing. She said, well, our kids and some of our parents think We're overcautious. We're too safe. You're going to show them why we did it. That was my first school. Then the following year, I did about 3 more. And the following year, about 6 more. And then, oh my God, 2003, 2004, 2005, I'm going back and forth across the country. I knew Toronto and the GTA like the back of my hand. I don't know more. They say, use it or lose it. Well, I might have lost it. Maybe 300 plus thousand children. I got about 25,000 letters at home. Little hearts and flowers from the JKSK. Really more important stuff from the older kids, especially secondary school children. Gradually, I took my secondary presentation to become what I would do with adults, and college and university, holy smokes. And I could see that I was having affect. And I had bullies writing me that they would never bully again. I had bystanders writing me they would never bystand again. And I had victims writing me and said that I had helped them. And at the end, I've got these students coming to me, and this young man approached me. He made me look small. Imagine that, how big this young man was. And of all things, his name was Michael. And he hugged me. And you couldn't see me because he was hugging me. He said to me, I wasn't going to come to school today. I've been thinking of not living anymore. Something made me come to school today, and there you were in this gymnasium, standing there, talking to all of us. And I looked at you and thought, that man's brave. Huh. And then he said, I got outed. I was on the football team, the basketball team, the wrestling team, but I had a same-sex preference, and I got outed. And the bullying started, the homophobia started, and I wasn't having a very good time. But I see you today, and I won't have those thoughts about my life anymore. I'm going to stand up and be counted because you did that for me. So I knew that I was doing things. I've got about 12 of those letters. I started a nonprofit. The picture there is my summer camp for the performing arts. I love it. It's so good to be around young people and feel my batteries charging and getting my oomph. And to come here today and have music and how you sought me out on social media with the song Don't Laugh at Me. So we've done so much with this nonprofit, Make Children Better Now. The initials of my oldest son, Myles Casey Benson Neuts. Imagine for a minute, I tell the young people to shut their eyes and imagine all of us are the same. We're all males. We're all the same height, the same weight, the same skin color. We all wear glasses, all the same hair color, all the same eye color. Imagine that. And then I ask them, open your eyes, and I ask them, what one word can describe the world to you if we were all the same? And even the little kids get it. And you know what they say? Boring. So, well, if you don't want to live in a boring world, why are we making fun of people for being different? It makes absolutely no sense. I come to think that my message, I don't know what people get out of it, and I don't know what affect I always have, but I now can guarantee one thing. I can make you think. And if I don't do nothing else, I do that. I'm going to finish with these 2 poems, Allison. The first one is by Myles, What is Peace? It was written March 25th, 1997. Grade 4, 9 years old. A year later, he's gone. To me, peace is love instead of hate. Peace is truth instead of lies. Peace is nature in a clean world. Peace is comments instead of complaints. So share instead of greed. Tell the truth instead of lies. Tell comments instead of complaints. Be kinder to others. Do whatever you can do to be more peaceful. If it means praying to God more or read more of the Bible. Don't swear or fight. Just be more peaceful. To yourself and to others, I hope my poem has made you more peaceful for our world by Myles Neuts. I'm so proud of him for him to write that. The second poem, Myles had this thing. We live on the Thames River, less than 5 minutes from Moravian Town in an indigenous community. And he knew the history of Chief Tecumseh in the War of 1812. And he always envisioned that he would be the person to find Chief Tecumseh's grave. Some of the elders in the indigenous community say they know where it is. Many of us don't. Chief Tecumseh wrote a poem. Unbelievable. It's so similar to Myles. So live your life that the fear of death can never enter your heart. Trouble no one about their religion. Respect others in their view and demand that they respect yours. Love your life. Perfect your life. Beautify all things in your life. Seek to make your life long and its purpose in the service of your people. Prepare a noble death song for the day when you go over the great divide. Always give a word or a sign of salute when meeting or passing a friend, even a stranger when in a lonely place. Show respect to all people and grovel to none. When you arise in the morning, give thanks for the food and for the joy of living. If you see no reason for giving thanks, the fault lies only in yourself. Abuse no one and no thing, for abuse turns the wise ones to fools and robs the spirit of its vision. When it comes your time to die, be not like those whose hearts are filled with the fear of death, so that when their time comes, they weep and pray for a little bit more time to save their lives over again in a different way. Sing your death song and die like a hero going home. If you can do one thing after you've met me today and met my wife and met the peaceful people that you are, remember that one small act of kindness will not only help the person you helped, it'll help you. It'll help your spirit. Keep all those good thoughts in your head and let's change this world. Thank you.
Wow. When the Young at Heart met Mike a couple weeks ago, before that we talked about any experiences we had in our own lives about bullying, and sadly many of us have experienced that ourselves or with our children. So thank you. Thank you. Seems so little to say, but for coming and sharing, we'd love to have you back. You make a difference, and we know that your boy is so proud of you and Brenda. So thank you for sharing Myles with us. Just a little token of what you've done for everybody, as you can tell by the standing ovation. So thank you, Mike. Thank you.